number 16 with the Greenpill Dev Guild. We got a fun conversation today. We're going to be talking about GreenWill and building Regen reputation with other tools such as Prosperity Pass and Trustcraft. So really excited to have this conversation. Just to, I guess, introduce myself, because I always forget to do that. I'm Afo, steward of the Greenpill Dev Guild, and part of other communities as well, but here really wearing the Dev Guild hat today. And have two great individuals with me today to talk about Regen reputation. I'll pass it over to Matt to introduce himself.
Hey. Pleasure to be here. Matt, I'm wearing a lot of Greenpill hats as well, Regen coordination, and yep, pleasure to be here. Kick it off to Monty.
Yeah, well, we're here at the trust reputation call. So we've been doing a lot of stuff in trust and reputation building, and so excited to get into that. But yeah, my background, refi DAO, Regen coordination, and a whole bunch of stuff in the ecosystem. But I'm not going to spend too long introducing myself. I want to dive in.
I think that's even a good jumping point, right? All the different ecosystems we're a part of and the different reputation we've been building across them. But in essence, this conversation really is to, I think, one, just understand reputation, or just how we view reputation in general, and kind of the different ways to measure that, signals, attestations, tokens, etc. And then kind of then contextualizing it within our region space as we are trying to mature and scale our products and tools that we're building. Having solid reputation tools is key so that we could accurately allocate funds, help with decision making, etc. So yeah, I think we could first probably kick things off talking about the past. So typically how we struggle our spaces are we have a past, present, and future. So we talk about kind of the past of things. Typically it's kind of more builder focused, but I feel like we could kind of just talk high level on maybe how we've built reputation in the past in other contexts, right? Before even coming into the space, like what were the different ways that we built reputation, and whether that's like even playing sports, being on the team, et cetera. Like, what are the different ways that we could build reputation in this general? Then we could get to the present, talk about kind of the current landscape with public goods and region reputation and how that's factoring into how allocations are currently being done. And then look forward to the tools that are being developed that will help make this more efficient and make it more, make the weights that people have when they're making governance decisions more clear and more accurate. So I guess, let's kick it off with the past. And I'll start with a question. So maybe to you, Monty, like outside of our regen space, what would you say have been other areas where you built reputation in the past, or like, and what were some of the signals that were
I think if we really want to talk about the history of like trust and reputation, we can think of even of like a more meta perspective of like humanity and like, how we first started gathering in villages and tribes, and reputation and trust is like a core foundational mechanism for humans grouping together and being able to organize and coordinate effectively, because you're being held socially accountable to the group. And that enabled the tribes and villages and things like that to form. If we're thinking about Yuval Noah Harari and his kind of work, Homo sapiens. But then, now we have all this digital technology, right? And suddenly it's not just your neighbors and the people in physical proximity that you're tracking reputation and trust and building those things with. We now only have these very globalized systems where we're somehow having to form trust and reputation and coordination. We may have never met the person. They may be a totally anonymous online entity. They may have a anonymous crypto wallet, or and at the same time there's bad actors out there, whether it's kind of corrupt nation states, authoritarian, things that are trying to get your information, or things like that, or people who are scammers and grifters. So how do we evolve the systems and the tools that we have to coordinate digitally and build trust and reputation in this increasingly digitized world? And if we do that effectively, can we create this kind of next generation of trust and coordination? And so I think the kind of primitives that we're talking about and exploring, I think, are some of the early explorations in the next phase of how we're exploring these contexts in the digital and networked world that we're moving into. So yeah, I think that's how I would frame it. And then I guess my kind of a personal note on that would be, with refi DAO, this concept of the refi local nodes that we're building, these local communities who are implementing and experimenting with refi and regen tooling in their local communities and economies. And it's been an interesting journey, like myself, of actually, okay, like you start, this kind of network, and then you start to build relationships with the local people, the founders of that community, and it may start online, but actually how much things get strengthened when you actually are able to go in physical, meet people at conferences, meet people at their actual local communities. And I find how that makes like a kind of step change in my own head around how I trust and relate and kind of orient people in the network. And so I think that element is still super important. But then if we can have digital tools that are able to help kind of have a representation of that online, and what that might enable in terms of better coordination and governance, I think is what we're starting to explore with Trust Graph and Localism Fund. So yeah, excited to talk about that a bit more, but I'll leave it there as my introduction.
Yeah, that's great intro. And I think to pick up, I think this is Matt, me and you could riff on this a little bit, talking about how we built reputation in previous contexts. Especially, I know with like your background in fantasy, but what we share, I feel like as a common background is sports, right? We both grew up playing basketball, being a part of teams. And in essence, like when you think about reputation in that context, it's one half, you could say the stats, like what do you do for the team? You're scoring points, getting rebounds, you're very valuable in that sense. But then it's also what your teammates say about you, right? How they view you. Are you a good teammate? Are you there when people are struggling? Are you support? So which is more of the quantitative or qualitative input, mixed in within the quantitative of stats. So I feel like for me that's been the context growing up of the sports that I've built reputation in different ways. Whether it's being on a formalized structured team like a school team, or being on the playground growing up playing with your friends and building reputation in that sense. So I feel like that is a good conduit. Like that's teams and kind of sports and kind of different clubs that people join. Like it's very like you can very much start easily measuring those things. So like very much, I look at sports as a good example for reputation.
It's funny when the first thing I thought of when you were talking about sports leagues is obviously if you know people, you play with them, but there's also the you're on this team in this division, you're on JV varsity.
Oh
That's
yeah,
also something like
yes,
you don't, if you have somebody who they don't know you don't know anybody that knows them. Oh, you're on this team. This is okay. I have some level of context for the reputation that you've kind of built up within that league. Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. Obviously, what Monty said, yeah, because in the end, nothing we're doing here or anywhere else is that new. It's just a different wrapper to the same, human relationships, coordination type stuff that's been going on for forever. So yeah, I guess it's good to definitely start off with that. But yeah. So I was just about to start rambling. Was there anything you specifically wanted me to touch on in regards to like the sports league stuff, or should I just kind of start rambling?
Let's talk about like what have been some
Mhm.
areas where you built reputation. I guess
Gotcha.
that.
So I feel like just with like everything, there's just multiple layers to it. You have that very broad, but then you also have this very specific niche, and within each specific niche, there's going to be a way that reputation kind of comes into fruition. So yeah, in a past life, I was a professional fantasy sports player. There's no black and white, it's the scores on the board. There's no vagueness to anything, and the data is not on chain, but there was a level of like I set up these like overly complex multi-division leagues with like English Premier League style relegation in between seasons. But just like this on-chain world, that's very data driven, and you can look at it like individual leagues, but you could also compare teams across leagues within the same division, like with an overall leaderboard. So I guess what am I even getting at there? I I think it's nice to have data. Like at least the way my brain kind of works, it's nice to have that data layer that you can also because the multiple layers. So you have the P2P attestation type stuff. You have, the more squishy non-data related stuff. But when you can actually layer data on top, I feel like things get really really powerful there.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I think talking about data, right? Is then typically when you have data, you got to figure out the formula, right? How you get to then take all this data, structuralize it, normalize it, make it all clean, and that might be a good segue. And actually, I'm gonna bring Kawe onto the call. So we got Koi here. We'll bring him on. Yo, what's up, Koi? There he is. What's up, man? Yeah. Can you hear us? Nice. Well, maybe before we go to the next section, just to put you on the spot, but if you're ready to jam, we've been just talking about other areas in the past where we built reputation in our prior experiences, and yeah. They're saying, record. They're saying they can't hear you. You guys are on.
Oh,
Can you hear? Can you guys hear
can you
me? Well, I can hear you. Chat. Can you guys hear us? Oh, I love saying that. Hey, chat.
can you hear me now?
Okay, they can hear. They can hear me. They can't hear you. Try rejoining the stream.
Okay.
Oh, can they hear Koi now? You can hear Koi Abundance, and give me a message if you guys can hear Koi.
Oh, now it's fine. Nice.
Okay, good. We're good. All right, nice. Go.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a good conversation. I really like to jump in these talks. I think reputation it's a mix of like different things. There is no recipe, There is no way you can like prescript like a path for someone to build reputation and like this will be the ending result. So when we talk about formulas, I think that's the challenge. Like we need to think about these formulas, considering that there is no specific recipe, right? There is no specific formula that fits all the situations. So what Matt was saying, like about bringing different layers, right? We can consider trust, we can consider contest, we can consider achievements, and like this I think this mix of elements, this can compose a good measurement of reputation. But it's still like we still need to keep in mind that this is like dynamic and this evolves. Like so at some point, maybe trust doesn't like, yeah, or contest is not important anymore, or maybe in a specific case, where we want to make easier for people to access something or something like that. But yeah, that's how I can contribute to that. Excited for this talk.
Yeah, and I think we could continue to pick up on that kind of the recipes that what are the different ways we take this data and we mix it together to then create some concrete value or score or assessment of reputation. And so I think that's a good segue into maybe some of the current tooling in the space. So I'd like us to get to like some of the new things like Trust Graph, but I'm curious for us to explore a bit what has been the current scenario, like what have we been using to measure reputation? It might not be much, but what are the current tools that we've had, for the past year or two that we've been utilizing to use reputation? Maybe it's nothing. But I'm curious to hear. Maybe I'll pass it to you, Monty. You want to kick us off there?
In terms of the mechanisms in Web3 space that we've
in our
been
public good
using.
space. Yeah, in our public good regen space within our niche, you know, Gitcoin, Cello, like ecosystem, like what have been the current tools and how have you been doing this? A lot of it's been token weighted, you know, decision making, of course, and
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a number of experiments. I think I was involved in Trusted Seed, and there was a regen score. It's not currently live anymore, but I think moving away from tokens denominating reputation, I don't think is a very good mechanism, because if you give someone a bunch of tokens because they've got reputation, right? And then imagine, you know, they suddenly do something, they rug someone, or they're actually a scammer, they've still got those reputations in their wallet, like you've sent them to their wallet. And so I think we've learned a lot, I guess, in the DAO space and the wider Web3 space about what doesn't work and what is not a very good mechanism. And in terms of in the refi and regen space, I think one measure of reputation has, you know, historically been like you've started a project, whether you're a founder in the space or you're part of a trusted refi project, you've got kind of social capital from participating in various spaces, even building up a certain, you know, reputation in Greenpill or in refi DAO. And so certainly what we started to do is look at the history of refi DAO and say, okay, there are people who have shown up in the founders circles, there are people who have appeared on the podcast, there are people who have written blogs and written, you know, good content. How can we aggregate all of those signals and assign, you know, some credits from that, not necessarily on-chain tokens, but actually some points that then will then feed into this badge that we've created through Prosperity Pass. I can share a bit more about that, but I think we're jumping ahead slightly there. But yeah, the only other things that come to mind also are like the HATS protocol, right? Like if you've got that kind of starts to bring a role of what you might be a role in various DAOs on chain as well. And that can be a signal of reputation.
yeah.
Kinda.
The follow up on the token point, I feel like because you have different types of tokens, you have like ERC20s, and then you have like NFTs, and I feel like that's like you have two ends of the spectrum of like this pure tokens from like, because I feel like NFTs are pretty powerful because you could revoke those, you could have like a control mechanism around that, you could expire them. Unlock protocol has like memberships and things of that nature. But I think that area in the middle, it's still how do you capture like the more frequent, you know, actions or just things that are more not attached to tokens. And that's why I feel like we'll get to that, like attestations and different ways you could then attest to different things. But I feel like that fills in that middle part of those two areas.
Yeah,
Anyone
right.
else?
They can be
Okay.
helpful signals, right? Like the NFTs, POAPs, you know, they are a signal that can then, but it needs to be contextually interpreted in order to actually gain relevance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
we'll,
for
and we'll talk
example,
about GreenWill too, and kind of how we've taken that NFT approach initially to kind of measure participation and reputation within Greenpill, and ways that, you know, Trust Graph could help with that going forward. But yeah, I'd love to hear Matt, Cole, you guys anything on this one? Sure.
yeah, I was thinking about like how on what Monty said, like we can use a POAP, right? But this gives someone reputation about something. But if we like, it's not every event it's the same, right?
Mhm.
We can do a meeting for a governance activation. We can do a meeting for just a community call. So I think if we bring this kind of details on the POAP side, like considering that we have a trusted circle and this POAP can represent more than just a proof of attendance, but like that's where we can like where we could use POAP as a reputation besides like just a number of participation, you know. So yeah, this is just a thought where we can like with these middle terms that we can find when we coordinate and we define thresholds. I think this the meaning on the tools and the tokens of reputation, they can be enforced. Like we can bring like a kind of a way to enforce this culturally. Yeah, just a thought on that.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. I agree with basically what everybody said. But yeah, other thoughts for like the super off-chain stuff is you also, when you're like kind of getting a feel for somebody, about to make an acquaintance with somebody, it's how many Telegram groups are you in together, Twitter, Farcast, or mutual followers, that type of stuff. And how important is that? Not particularly important. But that doesn't mean that it's not a part of something that, you know, comes into mind when you're getting a feel for somebody.
No, actually, building on that, I think it's a really good point. It's something, as we've started building the trust graph, just like thinking about what are the sources or across the web that already kind of signify some level of trust. And there's like your social connections. Like even when we're having these applications to the localism fund, like just looking the person up on Telegram, oh, they're in this and this group. Like already there's a slightly more trust there. Like, oh, I see them in a discourse forum, whether it's like the Cello forum or the Regen coordination forum, and you can even see like how many hearts they've received, and that's like a form of trust that they've received some validation for others. And like when you start thinking in this way, you suddenly realize that there's so many different potential signals of trust that we could start to represent and bring in, that provide different context in different areas of the community. And you know, then there's all the on-chain signals, like who you're transacting with, which NFTs and POAPs you've got, like all of these kind of other signals. So yeah, lots to think about.
Something that like I was researching recently is like mutual recognition. This is what Matt was saying, like this kind of pairing. I think this mutual recognition could be something to explore as a unit or a threshold to also have in the loop, like having this equation, like a percentage of mutual recognition, like people that recognize each other, like the type of stuff that Trust Graph is doing. Basically, like it's awesome. Like this is a way to find the middle term that we were describing.
Yeah, and this is, and we're hopping all over the place. I love it. This is a very fluid conversation. I think to add to that is, in sense, and this is where I don't want us to go into the future yet, but something I just put on that's popped in my mind is like, we talked about Telegram and that being a signal, and I'm curious, like with AI and different tooling, because we have a lot of passive interaction. You know, Telegram chats, we're sending messages, GM to each other, et cetera, et cetera. How could that just be pulled in to where people don't have to manually do things, right? Don't have to go to a platform and do certain things, and you could just kind of pull in that context. Of course, people will probably start gaming it, but I feel if you find the right balance, it can be subtle. Like, people aren't. It's very passive. People won't even be aware. Like, oh, like okay, like this is cool. Like, you know, um, yeah. So there's something that maybe we could talk about when we get to the future. But to bring us last thing on the present, I would say to talk about is our tools. Like, what have we currently built? What have been some of the pain points we've been trying to solve with the current tools? And so I guess I could kick it off with GreenWill, and then we could talk about Persuaded Pass and Trust Graph. But there already are some existing tools that we've been experimenting on in this space. And one that we've been working on is called GreenWill, which is, in essence, you could say like an NFT badging system currently. We built it off of Guild XYZ to where if you attend different Greenpill events, if you donate in Greenpill rounds, you're able to get that badge. And actually, almost forgot it, but we're airdropping the Genesis NFT. So let me actually share my screen so you guys can see that. Okay. Okay, let me try this. Let's see if it'll load. I gotta connect. Good old wild connections. But while I'm connecting, we had people claim the initial GreenWill over the past few months. So if you were someone that went on the Guild XYZ platform and claimed it, you are able to get this NFT. And let's see what's going on with Ravi. I love Web3. I love it. Okay, let me just. There we go. Finally. It's always when you're trying to demo something that it's Oh, and then what happened to our layout? Our layout went crazy, huh? All right, here we go, guys. I'm sorry. Let's see. Here it is. Okay, share it again. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? Nice. So you can see here we using Unlock, and just mention Unlock. We created an NFT that represents everybody that claimed the GreenWill in the first iteration, in the first phase. So this is the GreenWill Genesis badge, and this is kind of a good way to even talk about how this can then be built upon as an NFT. Because currently, what we've done is just have this NFT that, in essence, gives a way to kind of start gating different interactions and have a sense of the kind of allow list and different people that are part of the community, but then it doesn't do the next thing, which is provide different weights in different contexts on the trust and the different things within everybody that holds this badge, like what value do they bring in different contexts. And that's why I feel like prosperity pass and trust graph could come into play. But before going there, we'd love to hear Matt and Corey, if you want to share anything about GreenWill and what we've been working on for the past year.
Yeah, I can go. I think it was a discovery process for us. Like we started mapping like all the we knew about the things we care, like on the on-chain actions, but these were like in a cloud. So with GreenWill, we really like got into details there. We went to the contract that we need to track and the things we need to yeah, and other things that we want to add in the future too. This was a great process. I think we learned a lot about our network. Something that I would like to say is that we can kind of have some metadata on each one of these keys. So if you join like on settings, I guess we could like kind of have some kind of different degrees of the stats we want to add. No, I think it's you can go. Let's yeah, this. Let's take a look on this. Go scroll down. Yeah, the custom part. You can add properties and levels and stats, and this is pretty cool. We can play with that. I think we need to learn how to automate because 58 keys, it's a lot to do manually. But I think this is also something that we could integrate in this badge.
And I want to make sure to do a special shout out to Nansel, who did the art for this, who created this beautiful GIF that shows the evolution of a plant growing. So yeah, super shout out to him for all the work he's done. And not only this, but other projects. But yeah, love this GIF, yeah.
And our YouTube too, guys. Like our YouTube is full of Nansel's work. So thank you, bro.
Matt, you want any words?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, shout out Nansel. Yeah, with Greenwill, I mean, yeah, you can see the inputs that we have now. I feel like, I don't know if it's just kind of the way my brain was wired, but the whole time I'm just like, all right, let's just add more inputs. And I just been like writing down 1,000 inputs without really a concrete plan for how anything would be weighted. But yeah, it was definitely one of those where like this is a functional thing. We'll be utilizing this, but through the process of building it and kind of figuring it out, the picture for what kind of on-chain reputation data exists became a lot clearer. And I opened up a Google Doc that is in the Dev Guild Google Drive, and I'm like looking at all my stuff. But I kind of broke it. I don't want to take us off topic when we're talking about like what's happening right now. But yeah, no, it was an interesting journey kind of to go through this, and even Guild radically changed their platform kind of as we were towards the end of this. But yeah, chapter 1 in the books. It's a beautiful NFT.
Good stuff. Yeah. I think it's been a great learning experience. And yeah, I'm excited to get more people involved going forward and start to bring together some of these protocols that we're working across from different projects, so that we could utilize our resources, well. And so yeah, I think this is great to pass over to you, Monty, to talk about Prosperity Pass, maybe how that's connected to GreenWill, and then also Trust Graph and some of the work you've been doing.
Yeah,
Feel free to share
absolutely.
your screen too. Yeah, feel free to
Let's
take
do
over.
it. I'd love to share my screen. Okay, I understand. I'm going to share this specific window. Okay. Cool.
Excellent.
Can you see my window? Has that worked?
Oh, I did add it to the stream. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing. I was trying to figure out the layout.
Now we can.
Okay.
All
there we
right.
go.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, awesome to see what you guys have been cooking with GreenWill. I think it's similar lines to how I'd been thinking around ReFi DAO, trust and reputation. And so, I think this kind of leads on the journey of from thinking about reputation in ReFi DAO to thinking how that connects into, and that led to Prosperity Pass, and then the next evolution of that as well with Trust Graph. So maybe I'll just quickly kind of take on that journey. So similar to what you guys described, it's a complicated thing to try and map reputation and do that. So we thought about the different types of contributions to ReFi, whether that's your financial contribution, labor, expertise, or just basic participation, and the different forms of that, whether that's like a ReFi podcast host, a blog writer, a core contributor, or contribution in these different things. And the tricky part comes as well to like you have to then assign like a kind of points, right? Like well, how much is each action worth? And that process in itself is a complicated thing to work that out, and also the governance around that is complicated. But we went through that process. We've got a minimum viable version of that, and what that led to was, okay, we can have like a ReFi DAO badge and actually have the levels of contribution that someone's might have, starting from sort of basic contribution at a level 1 to, okay, like they've been a core steward since the early days and they've done everything related to ReFi DAO and they're level 5. So it's not a perfect representation, but I think it's better than it's a good first version of that. And so that's the kind of methodology behind it. I think it aligns strongly with what you've presented with GreenWill. And then with Prosperity Pass, it's a case of, okay, well, now can we aggregate those signals and represent them on chain alongside other signals of trust? So ReFi DAO, Greenpill, and a bunch of others. So we'll get into that in a second, the badges. But this is the Prosperity Pass app. If you are watching this and you haven't already, go to pass.celopg.eco and you can create your account. It's like a smart account built on safe technology, but instead of like adding other people's wallets, you add your personal wallet. So like I have 4 different main wallets that I use across the space. And in the Web3 space, we have a bit of a problem because you could build up reputation on one wallet, but actually, you may have 3 other wallets, and that can create fragmentation and challenges when you're wanting to create a unified, or identity and related to different things. So this allows you to connect in multiple wallets, and then the app can then scan each of those wallets for various on-chain signals, or so maybe use one wallet for Greenpill and one wallet for ReFi DAO. If you connect them both in here, it's going to pick them both up and give you that aggregated identity. So yeah, here are some of the badges that some of the on-chain, some of the signals that we're surfacing here. We mentioned ReFi DAO and Greenpill. We've also got like your Gitcoin donation history. You can verify your identity with Self, which is an amazing zero knowledge proof way of verifying your like government identity from your passport or ID, which is very important in terms of if we're thinking about verifying unique humanness in the world of bots and AI. And yeah, a whole bunch of other, I'm not going to go through them, but essentially each of these badges adds a slightly different level of context or reputation related to a specific community or protocol or actions that you've taken. And altogether, they can be summed up to create a sort of level. And obviously it's super contextual, right? Like this isn't like some universal level that is applied now your reputation across all the different space. I would say that this kind of aggregation here is a specific level that might be particularly relevant in the Cello ecosystem or community. But you can imagine future iterations of this where we're pulling, maybe Greenpill wants to only pull certain badges that are related to its community. So obviously maybe it chooses, hey, the integration with your Gitcoin donation history or a few of the other signals are really relevant to Greenpill, and we'll bring that into our version. I'm getting some sound from someone's else's. Needs to be muted, I think. I don't know who that is.
Everybody just mute. Just make sure. Just go ahead and mute.
Yeah, I'm still hearing that. I don't know whose that is. Are you guys hearing that?
I hear little noise.
Yeah, I'm hearing too.
Koi always seems to have a thing though. So I feel like it's probably. Yeah, try muting. Koi,
I'll keep rolling. It's good now. It's good now. It's disappeared now, so
okay.
that's good. So yeah, we're starting to, we've launched this app. We're starting to think about the next version of it and how it could be curated for sub communities. So it'd be awesome to have a Greenpill version of this and a RefiDAO version of this that's more curated and specific, and maybe each of the sub badges of Greenpill of like, oh, you participated on the podcast or you participated on XYZ thing could each be their own badge and represented here. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at and where this tool is going. And similarly, yeah, the leaderboard right now is a global leaderboard, but you can imagine different leaderboards contextualized for different communities or contexts. So yeah, that's where we're going. And I think still what this has a problem with is creating like a single points system, right? Like this is worth 20 points, right? Whereas what we could start to want to orient more towards is relational points and relational trust. And so that's what we've started to do with Trust Graph, which maybe I could share next, but maybe I should pause there before going into Trust Graph, in case there's any.
This is great, and I definitely would love to see us use this in Greenpill. And before we even segue to the next thing, we got 2 NFTs to give you today. We got a POAP. So we got a POAP just for this special day, Halloween. So let me go ahead and put it on the screen. Okay, I think I got to take over for a sec. Okay, copy link. All right. So go ahead and claim the POAP. The secret code, I will enter it into the chat right now. You guys, somebody said we look like a, you guys see that one?
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Okay, let me enter in this
I
POAP.
feel like I look like a mess that's covered in baby spit up and formula, but 90s boy band sounds a little bit better.
I'll take that. GreenWill.
And while Alpha's typing that in, I got to give credit to Prosperity Passport because I always wanted to kind of look into the eco credit retirement situation. So it's on the endless to-do list, and that actually pushed me over the edge. It's like, okay, sure, let's do it now. Why not? And then just like that, it was the first time I used Regen Atlas and kind of explored all the different providers over there. So there's definitely something to it, I think, at least.
Nice.
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, so POAP secret code is on the screen. Go ahead and claim that. The secret code is building GreenWill, building-GreenWill. So you should claim on the POAP home app. If you do not have the app and you have issues downloading or accessing the app, feel free to DM me and I can send you a mint link directly. But yeah, go ahead and claim the POAP. All right, back to you, Monty.
I'm still entering my secret code. I want this POAP, huh?
Okay.
Building
GreenWill.
dash
GreenWill.
Greenwill. Let's see if this works. Yep. Okay, that's being minted. All right, back to me. Let's go.
This is
Yeah.
definitely a
Shout out,
beautiful piece, man.
shout out
Great.
Mansell once again.
Cool. So rocking back into this. One of the things we launched recently with some backing from Gitcoin, from Celo, and from Ethereum Foundation is the Localism Fund, and essentially wanting to get more resources to communities that are implementing Ethereum technologies to support political, economic, cultural, ecological localism. And we've launched some grant funding rounds to do that. But instead of doing this like a centralized traditional grant program that exists out there in the world, we're wanting to try and leverage some of the amazing technology and innovations in Web3 to make this a more distributed kind of system. And so how do we engage a kind of decentralized network of experts to support us in supporting these local communities and leverage a kind of network-based approach? So we have all these local communities applying, and then we also have this expert network of members of the Localism Fund. And what we have been looking for is members who have expertise in these specific areas. And you can think of it almost like we launched a decentralized job application, or instead of one person deciding on who gets the job, it's like a peer-to-peer kind of mechanism of who gets allowed into the thing. And so, yeah, we're looking for people who have expertise in these areas. We opened up an application process, and we've had nearly over 70 people apply, which has been awesome to see the interest in that, maybe seeing some of your faces in here. And now, how do we decide who gets into the network? And this has been the first application of the new tool that we've launched, which is Trust Graph, which is around trying to establish a digital representation of trust, and how that can basically seed different networks related to different organizations. And so using on-chain attestations as a core primitive to doing that, and some very clever technology in terms of how it calculates the scores, and how it basically uses some tech to be able to pull lots of signals, do some calculations that would be too complicated to do on chain, but then create a verifiable link to push that data to be accessible on chain. So it's got some very clever technology that have enabled this kind of next generation architecture for building trust networks on chain. And so, yeah, the Localism Fund has been our first experiment. We've learned like an absolute ton from actually just trying to use the tool, and how the kind of design considerations and the things you run up against. You can see that we've got a pretty exciting network that has grown. Essentially, how the mechanism works, I hope you can see this graph in front of me, is you start with some trust seeds, and those are like the people who are starting the network. They are seeding trust in the network. And so in this case, for Localism Fund, it was myself, Benjamin Life, and Patricia, who kind of kickstarted the thing. And then we're essentially mapping out our relationships to the people who have applied to say, hey, like this person applied, they said they have this expertise, and I'm saying with Alpha, I've worked with Alpha, I know him personally, and I have good context on his professional kind of thing. So I'm going to give him a high level of trust that his self-attestation is trustworthy, and he has the skills and the expertise that he's saying he has, and therefore is a good fit for joining the network. So yeah, that's kind of how the mechanism works. It's like moving from a attestation about yourself to then seeing, okay, well, does the network also attest that you have those skills and that are a good fit to join the network in a kind of peer-to-peer way. So yeah, that's how it works. And we've now got 56 members here, and the kind of leaderboard emerging of the people who then pass a specific threshold and then become a kind of validated, peer-to-peer validated member of the network, who've built up enough trust and relation through the relationships they've built in the space. And the final thing I'll say on it before I stop is that a little bit about the mechanism of how the score is calculated. So I think that's the cleverest thing, and I think that's the big innovation of rather than having a static score, as we saw in Prosperity Pass, of like this action is worth 20 points, which is a very kind of static kind of thing. the score is calculated dynamically. Every attestation kind of has a ripple out across the network. And it uses like the PageRank algorithm, which was originally developed by Google to work out like what websites are trustworthy. Turns out a really good signal for working out if a website is trustworthy is if other high trust websites have also referenced it, right? And so Google essentially forms this kind of like crawling web of trust based on how other pages have linked to other pages. And so that's how this mechanism works. So if I trust Alpha and then Alpha goes on to trust someone that I don't know, my trust to Alpha is by extension then lending trust to someone that I might not know because it's kind of jumping through the network. So in that way, I can start to trust people that I don't even know because I trust people that other people in my network that does know them. So yeah, that was a lot. I appreciate that was a big kind of ramble and there's a lot of stuff there. So I'll just kind of, pause, curious to hear any thoughts on that. But this is what we've been working on.
Can I ask one quick question? So if you make an attestation, an attestation to somebody, time passes, you collaborate with them, or you get into arguments with them and you hate them now, you just make a new attestation and that number is adjusted, or is that the simple mechanism there, or is it not? Is that not how it goes?
Correct. That's exactly how it works. So if we look here, I can type in alpha.eth and it should say that I've already made an attestation. Here. Yeah. So you can see, I can see the previous attestation I've made, very high confidence. I can revoke it, so just completely, or if I just make a new attestation, it will essentially just overwrite the previous one, which is again that signal of, okay, like I may have quite a low confidence score in someone because I've just not had context with them or not being able to verify their specific skills and expertise, but then I might collaborate with them, I might meet them in an actual event, and my confidence could have dramatically improved, and I could come back here and update that to reflect that shift. So yeah, it's dynamic and evolving as your relationships are.
Yeah, something that I like is that this visualization we can have, but I still think we need to like increase the focus on this mutual recognition. Maybe this could represent an addition or something, or because this represents a pairing. So in a network aspect, this would be like a graph. And how much strong is this connection? This would like be also something interesting to explore. Another
Yeah,
one
it does that with the confidence. That's like the confidence slider, right? Is how confident you are in your trust, and that's how that represents the strength.
Yeah, but is the tool like it's already using this mutual recognition as something that represents a higher score, like when someone have someone who attested to, and I attest to someone and this person attests to me, so this represents something, or
Yeah,
the
they're both boosting each other's scores because they're both showing that mutual trust for each other and lending a portion of their trust to the other person. Yeah,
got it. So one thing that I have is that how can we deal with like high 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 standards on the self-evaluation, like how can do the self-assessment like in a way where like we, if we have someone who puts like three in everything, like all the things, how could we get more how could we solve this? Like, how can we
yeah.
reduce these effects, like the final score, like how much he puts in there?
Yeah, I think that what you've highlighted there is actually, I think, one of the really clever things about this mechanism is that actually there's an incentive not to overestimate your skills, because if you come in here and put like 3 expert in everything, right? You're self-attesting those skills publicly to yourself. You're saying to everyone, I'm an incredible expert in this. but I'm then going to hold you to a higher bar. Like if I'm making an attestation and you've put yourself as an expert in everything, I'm not going to be extremely confident that you are an expert in everything. So I'm going to actually put a lower confidence score. Whereas if you came in quite modest and said hey, I'm this is actually my skills, and I actually know you quite well, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really reasonable estimation of their skills, I'm going to actually give you a higher confidence score. And so it's actually going to do you better to self-attest yourself in a more representative way, because of this peer-to-peer effect. Well, that's the theory anyway, and that's how I've been approaching it. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I think the challenge is how much we maybe learn to work how to work with the confidence. Like when we need to have a less value, maybe we're gonna discover that by using the tool probably. But excited, really excited for that. It's such a great tool. Shout out to everyone who built it.
I think you make a great point there. Is the mechanism is slightly breaks down if people don't fully understand exactly what they're attesting to. If they just put like 100% confidence and they haven't really understood what that confidence slider is representing, and what claim they're making with that, then it's going to slightly distort the results. So I think that's been a key learning for me in terms of how do we make it even more clear as to what people are attesting to, and get that information so that the quality of those assessments is higher, rather than just saying, oh, I'm friends with this person, so I'm going to give them 100% score. It's like, that's not really what we're trying to measure there. So yeah, that kind of is a core challenge, I think, of the mechanism.
Something I want to add is that what I think is really wonderful with the current tooling and where we're heading is that we have things like GreenWill Prosperity Pass that give that NFT, that like kind of list of people they can then start building trust graphs around. So I think it's a great thing that like we could, kind of have a context window to work with of, NFT holders or different things, and then build from there. And then I'm very curious about because I think something like this is, when it's first introduced, is very fun to do and get involved, but I can see it becoming fatiguing over time, right? Always having to go update. So I think just trying to think about some of we've talked about it, like, I guess it's where bringing back the AI part of like kind of in different tools that can kind of automate, look at different signals and be trusted, like how the AI is reviewing Telegram interactions or different things, and then assigning a confidence score. And then maybe also just having, I think I had mentioned this too, like trust graph parties, right? Where, come together as a community, maybe on some cadence to do this exercise.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points there. And I think this is also where, the fatigue element and the signals that exist elsewhere. But like you said, this is where I've also started thinking about where those other existing sources of trust are out on the web that already exist that could bring in as a baseline. So like you said, we could bring in prosperity pass badges. It could be, instead of everyone starting on 0 here, you could pull in these contexts from, okay, they have this and this badges, that automatically gives them, a base level of score. Maybe we do a discourse integration where it's pulling like the number of likes you received on a forum, and that's a good signal. And so all of these other signals, you don't have to do anything because you're already across the web, and it could already give some baseline score of trust, that could then be further enhanced by additional attestations from highly trusted people in the network that could boost it up. And then you could also imagine, like, this is just the localism fund one, but say if Greenpill network also made a trust graph, I might say actually the scores that they've, the trust that they've established over there is quite relevant for my fund. So I'm going to pull in their network as a signal, as a baseline signal to also be included in our network. So it can kind of scale horizontally by as the effort of establishing each network, suddenly those signals can then be brought into other networks, and so it can kind of scale in a horizontal multiple network type way. There's a bunch of stuff for how this could evolve.
Yeah, definitely. And one, I know we're at 10 o'clock, so definitely we could close in the next 5 minutes. One thing I want to mention, that's like I guess is a pitch. I would love to use Trust Graph in my Greenpill Garden that we've been planning. I feel like it could be pretty powerful to seed it with everybody that participates in that program, and then figure out like a confidence score across. We'll figure out like kind of the more intricate details, but I feel like it could be very powerful. Matt, Corey, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you brought the point that I was thinking about too. How this connects with Greenpill Garden, and like especially with this reservoir that we like. It's a protocol for services and goods, and how can we bring these collaborations? And I like trust graph and localism. How this is like getting together, and how could we already like have a clear scope for any commitments we want to do, for the deliverables we can define. So someone in our reserve could like just put a commitment on localism, ecological localism, and like this is already pretty good defined scope. Same for political or cultural. I think we now with this with this ground, we can like kind of build on top of the framework we were already building. So it's also another way to bring this together. So pretty excited with that. I want to play. I understand like what you said about fatigue, but I think I want to the way the tool is built very minimalist, like focusing on the what functionality, and like the the user has a lot of elements, and I think it's pretty cool to come here and evaluate something. I think this needs to be a practice. I know that it seems to be a fatigue, but I think this is part of the culture we need to create. Having this peer-to-peer assessment and reviewing that. I think this is where we need to go if we want to have like these problems this issue, right? Not problems, just issues like on how people see the confidence and how to use this properly. I think we're gonna get this with time. This is why we need to have this practice, like, and embed this in our pace too, in our not daily but weekly or grant routine. But right, we can assess this every grant we're gonna participate or something like that, or something big that is happening. Thanks everyone for today. Excited for more.
Nice. Matt, you want to let me remove the message so you can just hear?
Beautiful face. Yes, I guess to touch on briefly what you were saying with using a trust graph within the Greenpill Garden, I guess it would be a Greenpill trust graph. Like you don't do multiple trust graphs within an individual community, I'd imagine. I guess the one thing that could get complicated is the scoring system that you set up within your specific community's trust graph. If time passes, the way things are done kind of radically shifts. That can kind of throw a wrench into things where it's like, all right, we have our trust graph, time passes, a half a year later, the organization is kind of like, oh, actually, this is the thing that we're like super honed in on. This is what's super important. Like, can you go back and like reframe how you're supposed to be judging people? So I don't have a solution for that, but that's something that I could see kind of being an issue.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, we're at time here, Alpha. We could wrap up, but I have some thoughts I could follow up on that.
Yeah, no, go
which
for
might
it.
be
Go for it. It's important.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's a very good point. And I had that same consideration here as I was seeding the localism fund one. When I actually started making my attestations, I realized we needed to frame it slightly differently. And then if you're changing the criteria once the network's already being seeded, it's not really a good thing. So I think what you'll find is you'll have a specific network that gets built up and the context that is there. And if it's continuing to be relevant, that's good. If it's not, then a new network might have to be seeded. And what I can imagine is like, envision this, like you have a Greenpill global trust graph, right? But that could actually be also seeded by local Greenpill chapter trust graphs or different other local networks that might be built up. And what you could have is you could actually have a trust score for different networks or like a relevance score. So it may be that a particular network that someone built was established by some really high, leverage people and the attestations and the points they've built up there, you know, you think is a really high quality network and a high quality signal, and you say, actually, we really want to bring that strength in, it may be that over time gets less relevant, and you could just decrease the weight that that's having in your network. So, you know, there's a lot of parameters that you could imagine building up and how you could connect these different networks up and how that could evolve dynamically over time. But yeah, a lot of potentially a lot of complexity as well. But you know, we'll see. I think it's an interesting design space, and excited to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I feel like
Hello.
this would. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, reply, and then I have one more question for Monty. I'm sorry.
Well, this one I add like this, that the whole concept of a graph is ever evolving. So I just feel like it will fit well with this kind of, you know, iterative structure and iterative approach. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and factoring what you're saying with the AI and various other tooling, and like pulling in different data besides just the P2P stuff could, work against whatever fatigue kind of built up. All right, I got one more question for you, Monty. So Prosperity Passport is Celo centric. Obviously, you have stuff like the Greenpill, the Let's Grow DAO stuff. Like that's not necessarily based entirely on what they're doing on Celo, but a lot of the other miscellaneous stuff is Celo. Do you kind of? I know you're a Celo dude. Do you kind of have a thought as to how, like, maybe is it a separate reputation tool that just needs to be built out, or do you have a vision for somebody forking the Optimism badge system again and kind of capturing other regenerative things that are happening on other chains, or anything brewing there, or any ideas?
Yeah, we're thinking about prosperity accounts V2 and having sub accounts. So you could have specific communities that are curating badges and things that are more relevant to their specific community. So you could think of a Greenpill one or a ReFi DAO one, and that could be bringing signals from across multiple chains, not just on Celo. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to really scope out the architecture of that, build that out. It's not a simple task, but that's what's currently being explored. So we've got V1 is live, like that works, and yeah, this is a kind of ongoing conversation of how we could enable that more modular structure. But we'll need, you know, to raise significant funding for that, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Everything's a whole thing, but that's the way she goes. All right. Yeah, I have a overly extensive list of regenerative tokenomics and DAO NFT type stuff. So if that's ever something that's relevant, I guess hit me up. Let me know.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Let's wrap it there.
Yeah. So man, we could keep going. There's a lot to talk about. Probably the product planning calls. Those will be more dedicated calls to plan out some of these things. So expect some updates, everybody, on some of the things we're going to plan. I'm really excited about this. Just to let everybody know. So I'm pretty excited to see us continue to bring these tools together. I think even TrustGraph has a proposal in the PG tooling round that's really great. So looking to see that get supported and support the team in building what they're building there. And yeah, thank you, Monty. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Corey, for joining for this session and chatting. And yeah, this was a great call.
Cheers, guys. This was fun. Awesome. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for joining, for spending time.
Thank you who was here watching with us.
Yeah, we do this for you. Yeah, this is not just for us to talk. This is for you guys.
And roll through the Greenpill Dev Guild product sync if you got any ideas or you want to contribute to something like this. So, yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
You guys.
Bye-bye. Peace.
Bye.